This is the final cutscene that I just finished. It took me 2 weeks to make, cost almost nothing, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Hi, my name is Moss, and I'm making Duck Norris Tales, a boss rush game where you play as a duck saving the world from an alien invasion. And today, I want to break down how I created this fully animated cutscene as a solo indie developer, with basically no budget, including the 3 shortcuts that saved me days of work. Here's the thing about animated cutscenes in games. They're everywhere in AAA games, but most indie developers skip them entirely. They're too expensive, too time consuming, and too complicated. And honestly, they're right to be scared. A full animation studio would charge thousands of dollars and take weeks for something like this. But I did it in 2 weeks by myself. Let me show you how. If you haven't played Duck Norris Tales demo, it ends on a cliffhanger. Without spoiling too much, because the final game will have even more story content, you're transitioning to a new area. This area is represented and guarded by a demon. It's the entrance to the underworld. I wanted the cutscene to match that vibe. Dark, ominous, unsettling. Something that makes you realize you're about to enter a really bad place. But before I drew a single frame, I made a decision that saved me probably 5 days of wasted work. Here's what most people do. They animate the entire scene, then try to find the music that fits. And that's backwards. Time to think like a filmmaker. I started by finding the perfect music track first. Because when you're working on a budget, and I mean really tight budget, you don't want to animate for too long. You want to have an MVP out and then potentially update it later when the time and budget allows. The music dictates the pacing, the cuts, the emotional beats, everything. I'm fortunate enough to work with an amazing composer that I met here on YouTube. But if you don't and you want work with assets, I actually created this cutscene using royalty-free music from Ovani Sounds. They're not sponsoring this video and I don't get paid to tell you this. I just find their tracks and sound effects really high quality, and with a little bit of remixing you can get incredible results. So I spent a couple of days just listening to dark atmospheric tracks until I found the one. And the moment I heard it, I knew exactly how the cutscene needed to flow. This is going to sound weird, but the best way to plan any cutscene is to block it out in a video editing software before you draw anything. And I cannot stress this enough. This will save you so much time and headache. And here is why. Sometimes you don't know how long the cutscene needs to be. If you animate first and then realize it's too short or too long, you are screwed. You have to redraw everything and try to find a track that will fit your art, which is a lot harder to control. But in the editing software, you can stretch the clips, drag and drop placeholders, and rearrange the entire sequence in seconds. Take a look at this. I imported the music track, then started placing colored rectangles as placeholders for each shot. Red for the door, blue for Duck Norris, and green for transition shots. And I had my shots planned out on paper. I needed to have a front view of the demon door, back and front view of Duck Norris going through the door, and falling into the abyss. I have like 4 to 5 shots and I planned 30 seconds of cutscene. But here's the problem. 5 static shots is boring, and I'm not trying to make a slideshow. I'm trying to make a cutscene. So I started thinking like a cinematographer, trying to find B-rolls, adding leading shots, and moments that build tension. I looked at the music timeline and I created cuts every time the music had a natural beat, or any transition that I can see fit. Turned out it was roughly 3 seconds. I used that as my rule of thumb and started blocking in extra scenes. I decided to add more close-up shots, some bird-eye view, and other scenes. Suddenly I had 10 plus shots instead of 5, and that whole thing felt cinematic instead of static. All of this took around 3 hours in the editing software. If I tried to figure that out while animating on the go, I would probably waste days of work. Once I had my blueprint, I started with the front view shot, the demon door in all its threatening glory. And this took about a day to draw and animate. Duck Norris looking in the door frame, the ominous glow, and I wanted it to feel like something alive, not just a prop. And take a look at this. See how everything flickers? That subtle movement makes it feel alive. That flickering took around an hour to add, but it completely sells the effect. Next up, the front view of Duck Norris, standing in front of the door. I have done these so many times, so it didn't take too long for me. I just added more flickering and panning animation. With these shots done, I had already established the introduction. Duck Norris, the door, the tension building. And I typically don't like to work in a linear fashion, and I try to tackle the most intimidating stuff early on because if I save it for last, I'll procrastinate forever. So I jumped straight to the hardest shot, Duck Norris entering the underworld. I had two options here. Option 1 was to make Duck Norris just walk through and cut to the next scene, which just sounds so boring to me. The second was a simple transition cut, have Duck Norris walk in and then cut to Duck Norris walking out. It's so efficient, but seems uninspiring. And the third option was to have the door physically grab Duck Norris and drag him inside. And obviously I picked the third one. This single shot took me 3 days to animate. 3 days. The door needed to crack open, tentacles to reach out, and Norris needed to struggle. The motion needed to feel violent and sudden, and I have to sell that effect, otherwise the whole cutscene doesn't work. And look at the result. This is the money shot, and this is what most people will remember. Was it worth the 3 days? You tell me. Now I have 3 of my major scenes done. The front view, back view, and the door. Next, I needed the moment right before the door grabs him. Norris standing there, contemplating what he's about to do. Here's where I got creative with efficiency. Instead of drawing a whole new scene, I reused the sprites from the earlier shots and added the twist. Duck Norris and his reflection staring at each other. A glimpse of madness he's about to descend to. It's a shortcut, but when the scene only lasts 3 seconds, you can absolutely get away with it. And honestly, give me a bigger budget and I'll make this even more elaborate. But for now, this works very well and took maybe 6 hours. Then I added the door cracking and shattering effect as the reflection fades. Very subtle, but simple and fits the scene perfectly. At this point, I took a step back and looked at the editing timeline. I had big gaps in the middle, and I needed to tie everything together before the final scene. But now we need to get from point A to point B smoothly. This is where B-roll saved the day. I created small sprites of Duck Norris walking forward, just simple 4-frame loop animation, nothing fancy. I also laid out the details of the cinematic shots. A close-up panning across the stairs as he climbs, a bird's eye view showing him approaching the door, and a slow zoom that builds tension. Look at this sequence. The whole thing feels like a movie instead of a series of disconnected images. Each one of these B-roll shots took maybe a few hours to make, way faster than a complicated character animation, but they add so much production value. And now for the ending. After Norris gets pulled through the door, I wanted something that felt completely different from the rest of the cutscene. I went fully stylized using the color scheme of madness. I drew this massive demonic worm, ready to devour Duck Norris, and I had everything fade to black as he falls into the abyss. This shot took a few days of trial and error, but I was very happy with the results. You're not just entering a new area, you're entering hell itself. And here's the completed cutscene one more time. I understand that creating cutscenes is what separates a game that feels polished from budget games, and I wanted that for Duck Norris Tales. The final step is to take everything you have done and translate that inside the game engine. Now that you have everything laid out in the editing software, you can bring everything together in a few hours instead of days, and know exactly where every shot needs to be and how long each one lasted. If you're an indie developer thinking I can't afford a cutscene, I want you to reconsider. I know you can't afford a AAA quality cutscene, but you can afford this approach. You can get free or cheap royalty-free music. $1 from Humble Bundle can go a long way. You can use any editing software. I use DaVinci Resolve and it's free. Try relying on your existing art skills. Your first cutscene might not look as good, but practice creates progress. And lastly, just give yourself time and patience. Duck Norris demo is on Steam right now. If you want to see the other cutscenes, I have the link in the description. I want to hear from you. What's your favorite indie game cutscene? The one that surprised you because you didn't expect that level of polish from a small team? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're interested in optimizing things and becoming better, I've created a new Discord server for like-minded people who wants to take this journey to the next level, and you can find it in the links below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and a comment. It will really help me with the algorithm and help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy this video as well. Thank you so much, and remember, just take it one day at a time, and I'll see you in the next video.